Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of X-Men the Animated Series Season 3, Episode 1, Out of the Past, Part 1. This originally came out July 29th, 1994. Before I jump into my review, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything X-Men that will be on this channel. It is all X-Men all the time. So we get to see the Morlock Leech here again, and he's running away from the first time we see the group. The Reavers, who are led by Lady Deathstrike. I actually love specifically the look of the character of Bonebreaker, where he's on these tank treads, and we see that Leech stole this gun from the Reavers to give to Callisto, who's still hell-bent on being the leader of the Morlocks, and she wants to use it to unlock this mysterious alien spacecraft that happens to have landed at the Morlocks tunnels. But when we first see Lady Deathstrike, she comes in and she's like, no one steals from Lady Deathstrike and lives. And Lady Deathstrike's talons are absolutely terrifying in animation. It's a deep cut here, but it reminded me so much of the same terror I got seeing the hands of the boogeyman from Disney Channel original movie Don't Look Under the Bed. That's what triggered me here seeing this. And she says, perhaps after all my work, I can have the means to exact my revenge, setting up the big mystery of this episode, who this person is, who they want revenge on. And she hits the spacecraft and it lets out this alien force field that shocks Xavier. So he's already onto this and realizing there's a super powerful force here that will set up the payoff with him later in the episode. And I love when one Reaver tries to then shoot the spacecraft. Deathstrike's like, no, I pay you to fight, not to think. Look, at least she pays him. It's good that she's a boss that pays her employees. I love, too, when the Morlocks first are battling the Reavers here, that one of them just turns into a dragon at one point. That was just insane. And poor Leech, when he's getting interrogated, he talks like Dobby from Harry Potter. Just talking in third person, very stunted sentences. He reminds me a lot of that character. But see, through this, Deathstrike realizes that she could use someone like Wolverine and his adamantium claws to open this alien spacecraft, and it's a nice teaser then knowing she's connected to Logan, and it's a nice transition match cut from her face to his face in this episode. Now, where we see Logan is great because we get to see Gambit and Wolverine shirtless in cartoon form playing basketball. I guess even though they're playing each other, they're both playing as skins. And of course, Wolverine pops the ball. Now, the best line of the episode comes when they get the call coming in from Leech, and Wolverine goes, man, we gotta talk about Storm, who she gives out our number to. That line had me dying. And I love how Jubilee's like telling him to be quiet. But when Leech says Yuriko's name, this is what is going to trigger Logan, and he says she needs to be rescued, so it's setting up the trap that will bring Wolverine over there, even though he's pretty aware he's going into a trap. Like, he just doesn't care. Like he said, this is personal. I love though when he's on his way, just when Wolverine comes out of the car, just civilians running away and screaming when they see him. That stuff always makes me laugh in animation. Now we see in a Logan flashback where he's with Yuriko, and he's like, I wouldn't go if I didn't have to, but some guys in Canada need to see me that you don't say no to. Now this sets up, we actually are going to see the same exact flashback we saw in season 2's episode Repo Man. It's literally shot for shot when he's getting his adamantium claws for the first time in his skeleton. The only new thing we got before it was the Yuriko scene that we just talked about, but also when Wolverine first got there, we get to see him being ambushed, but it really doesn't add much because they already said that in a line, so it's just showing you something we already knew. And that's my biggest problem with an episode otherwise that I really enjoyed and really think is a strong episode, is that them just replaying the same scene. It's frustrating. This will happen in older animated shows. This is nothing new, but it's disappointing nonetheless just seeing something over again. You never want that in any show, in any format. You just at least want it maybe from different lines put in or different camera angles, but it's exactly the same. So that was very frustrating. But it works perfectly in this episode. So it's almost just suffering from a decision in the show in itself planning this out, that they use this flashback in Repo Man, where maybe this flashback, if they had just saved it for this episode, it would have hit much harder and been a top-notch episode. But if you were just watching this episode as its own story and never seen the Repo Man episode, this on its own is really, really good. It obviously works through this flashback, but just having seen it before now in the scheme of the whole show, it's frustrating to see again. When you watch the scene again, though, knowing that the scientist is Yuriko's father, the big reveal at the end here, that he did blow up the lab Wolverine because he's destroying all the equipment. But when he goes to go after her father, he locks himself into the elevator, and then it kind of insinuates that Wolverine's like waiting for him, but was it to help him get out of there knowing he was going to explode? Or I didn't really take it as that, even though Wolverine says he didn't kill him. later on, but we did technically kill him, and I still took it as Wolverine was going after him through that whole scene. So that didn't really line up to me. It's almost like they wrote that line to somehow give it maybe an idea that he didn't actually kill her father. Now in the present, Wolverine walks into her trap in the tunnels, confronts the Reavers. I love when he cuts Skullbuster's arm off. He's like, "Ha! They're a bunch of tin cans." Really good. And you're seeing this line that Eureka's like, "The Eureka you knew no longer exists. I am Lady Deathstrike now, a living weapon of revenge." And that's when Wolverine's confused, like, what revenge? And that's when we get the bigger feel about her father. And you're also getting notified through that line that whatever happened when she went through becoming cyborg and having these adamantium talons put into her, that she is not the same person. She was angry, Eureka. She wanted revenge, but there's something else up there to the point where she's just a monster at this point. I really like how they showed her flashback through that process and going to the Reavers for help here. I thought that all worked really well. I love the line where she's like, "I was no longer the Eureka you knew, so I decided to change my outer form to match the darkness inside me." That was really cool. But when she first became Deathstrike, her face looking at her new body was just hysterical. Now it's cool we get this adamantium type duel here with her and Wolverine, and you see Wolverine hesitates when he's about to kill her. He's like, "I loved you once," but this is when it gives the Reavers the opportunity to shoot him and tie him up. But Deathstrike's about to actually go through with killing him here. But the Reavers are like, "No, we need him for that ship. That is the deal." And she's so cold now where she's like excited to have his adamantium skeleton as a trophy on her wall. This is why, to me, somewhere in that process in her surgery, it messed with her brain too, because this is like, wow. But Gambit and Jubilee come to help Wolverine, and I love this little battle between the Reavers and these X-Men. My favorite action moment here was Wolverine at one point does a split that Deathstrike dives through. That was great. And I also love, we got a little point of view shot here of Wolverine's claws fighting against Deathstrike. And it was really cool to see Gambit and Jubilee get some action here where they didn't have as much action last season, and it was cool getting to see Jubilee cleverly use her pyrotechnics. Now when Eureka says Eureka is gone, there's only Deathstrike, Wolverine throws her into the spacecraft, and Xavier gets hit again with his force field. It's like a force field, it's a warning, don't open the ship. But Wolverine's emotions are this is personal, so he wants to save Eureka because she's getting shocked by this force field, and he opens said ship. And we get a really good cliffhanger and teaser, this evil smile coming out in the power that's coming out of this alien ship, and the to be continued. So it's a great cliffhanger in a part 1 leading to a part 2. It's a really strong opening for season 3, and it's really exciting. Again, if we had never seen that whole flashback scene in season 2, this would be one of the best episodes for me ever for this show. But unfortunately, having a full scene play on repeat brings it down for me. And again, the little confusion here about saying he didn't kill her father when really what you're seeing he did. So those bring points, but everything else I really enjoyed. I also loved Jubilee encouraging Gambit that they're a family now, even though he didn't really want to go right away to help Wolverine. And it really tied up well in one episode. A lot of fun stuff we got to see and payoff in action. It also introduces a really cool villain in Deathstrike with a good story. So I'm going to give this one an 8.6. Let me know what you thought down below. I read every comment. I try to respond as many as I can. And hit that subs button so you don't miss one of my reviews of X-Men the animated series. And I'll see you next time.